In the last episode, we talked about the minefield metaphor. The idea was simple. Every relationship has emotional minefields. There are topics where one wrong step can set off a much bigger reaction than either person expected. Money's one. How about sex? Parenting? Housework? The family in general? Work stress? Tone of voice? The thing you said 3 years ago that somehow still shows up in arguments. Every couple has minefields in their relationship. The goal is not to pretend they're not there. The goal is to learn how to cross the field carefully. That is where the boardroom format comes in. Hi, I'm John Fugit, and welcome to Other Minds. Here we explore communication, trust, and the art of understanding and being understood. I help individuals and couples build calmer, healthier relationships and navigate the challenges that shape their lives. In this series, Please Hear Me, Practical Tools for Couples, we'll explore simple, effective strategies to improve communication, reduce defensiveness, and strengthen your bond. The boardroom format is a structured way to talk about difficult issues without turning the conversation into a fight. It gives both partners a job. One person speaks, one person listens, then you switch. That sounds simple. I'm sure you've heard it before, and it is. But simple does not mean easy, because when a conversation starts to feel threatening, most of us stop listening and start defending. We're not trying to understand anymore. We're trying to win. We're trying to prove we are right. We're trying to get the other person to finally see it our way. And once that happens, the conversation has usually left the boardroom and entered the courtroom. In a courtroom, somebody is on trial. Somebody's guilty. Somebody has to prove their case. Somebody has to win. That is not what most couples need in a hard conversation. Most couples need a boardroom. A boardroom is different. In a boardroom, the goal is not to defeat the other person. The goal is to understand the problem clearly enough that both people can respond to it wisely. You're not standing across from each other as enemies. You're sitting on the same side of the table, looking at the issue together. Now that shift matters because in relationships, the topic is rarely the only topic. You may think you are arguing about dishes, money, or schedules, but underneath that, you may also be dealing with respect, fairness, loneliness, fear, disappointment, or the feeling that your partner does not really see you. If you only debate the surface issue, the deeper meaning keeps leaking out sideways. The boardroom format slows this conversation down enough for both layers to be heard. Here's how to use it. First, schedule the conversation. Now, don't start a boardroom meeting in the middle of a fight. It won't work. Do not start it when one of you is exhausted, hungry, late for work, or already overwhelmed. Instead, pick a time when both of you have agreed to talk and you're both in a good space where talking about difficult issues won't overwhelm you. For your first few attempts, choose a smaller issue, not the biggest wound in the marriage, not the argument you have been having for 10 years. Pick something real but manageable. The point is to learn the rhythm before you test it under heavy pressure. Second, decide who speaks first. The first speaker gets up to 10 minutes. They don't have to take the whole 10 minutes. That person's job is to describe their experience, not prosecute their partner. So instead of saying, "You never care about what I need," you might say, "When plans change at the last minute, I feel unimportant, and I start to wonder whether my time matters to you." That is very different. The first version attacks. The second reveals. In the boardroom, the speaker's job is to reveal. Talk about what happened. Talk about how it affected you. Talk about what you need or what you hope could change. But do not use your 10 minutes to build a closing argument. Do not list every related offense from the last decade. Do not diagnose your partner. Do not try to force agreement. Just speak clearly about your own experience. The third step is the listener listens. And this is usually the hardest part. The listener is not allowed to interrupt. The listener is not preparing a rebuttal. The listener is not fact-checking every sentence in real time. The listener's job is simply to understand. That doesn't mean to agree. It does not mean your partner's version is the whole truth. It means you are trying to understand what the issue feels like from inside their experience. When the speaker finishes, the listener responds with a very simple phrase. What I heard you say was, and then fill in the blank. You summarize what you heard, not what you wish they had said, not what you think they secretly meant, but what you actually heard. Here's an example. What I heard you say was that when I change plans without checking with you, you feel like your time doesn't matter, and that leaves you feeling dismissed. Then follow that up with this question. Did I get that right? Those words are important because most of us are not responding to what our partner said. We are responding to what their words meant to us. And those are not always the same thing. Checking your understanding keeps the conversation from drifting into assumption. Now, the fourth step, switch roles. Now the second person speaks. Again, up to 10 minutes. Again, the focus is their experience, not their defense. They might say, when plans change, I'm not trying to dismiss you. I'm usually trying to solve a practical problem quickly, but I see how it lands differently for you. Or they may have a very different view of the situation, and that's fine. The boardroom is not about forcing both people into the same interpretation. It is about letting both people be heard without the conversation collapsing into attack and defense. Now, after the second person completes speaking, the first person reflects back what they heard. They use that phrase, what I heard you say was, and then, did I get that right? That's the basic structure. Speaker one talks, listener one reflects, speaker two talks, listener two reflects, then and only then do you move toward problem solving. Because if you try to solve the problem before both people feel heard, the solution will usually feel like pressure. It may be practical, it may even be reasonable, but emotionally it will not land. People are much more able to compromise after they feel understood. Now, there's one more part of the technique, and this is essential. You need a take a break rule. If either person starts to feel flooded, shut down, contemptuous, panicked, or unable to stay respectful, the meeting has to pause. Not end, pause. One person could say, I need to take a break. In fact, I often refer to those as magic words, because without them, the conversation often breaks down and goes places neither of the couple intends it to. But that sentence, I need to take a break, must be followed by a return time. I can come back to this in 30 minutes. Or, I need to stop for now. Can we pick it up after dinner? It can be important to say why it is you need that break, because you're not wanting to give the impression that you don't want to be there. So an even better way to say the last sentence is, I need to stop for now because I'm feeling flooded. Can we pick it up after dinner? That allows your partner to understand what's happening inside of you and perhaps give grace that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do. That return time matters because walking away without a plan can feel like abandonment. It can also feel like avoidance. A real break is different. A real break protects the conversation so you can come back to it with more capacity. During the break, do not rehearse your argument. Do not text your partner a follow-up essay, and don't build a stronger case. Instead, use the time to calm your body. Breathe, take a walk, drink some water. Remember that the goal is not to win. The goal is to stay connected. Stay connected enough, at least, to keep working on the issue that's important to both of you. Now, a quick note before we go on. The boardroom technique is for couples who are trying to communicate more clearly and safely. It is not a tool for managing abuse, intimidation, coercion, or situations where one partner is afraid of the other. If safety is the issue, structure is not enough. You need real support. But for couples who are not unsafe and who keep getting stuck in the same defensive loops, the boardroom format can make a real difference. At first, it will probably feel awkward. It'll probably feel too formal. It may feel like you are following rules instead of having a normal conversation. That's understandable and fine. Training usually does feel awkward before it feels natural. And the point is not to use the full boardroom format forever. The point is to practice slowing down, practice taking turns, practice checking your understanding, practice talking about your own experience without attacking your partner's character. Over time, those habits start to show up even when you are not formally using the technique. You begin to notice when you are drifting into courtroom mode. You begin to hear the difference between explaining and defending. You begin to ask, did I understand you correctly? Before you argue with what you think they meant. This is the real power of the boardroom technique. It is not magic. It does not solve every problem, but it gives you a way to slow down before the minefield explodes. And sometimes in a relationship, slowing down is the first real act of repair. If you want a simple roadmap for using this in real life, download the free companion mini book and worksheet, Please Hear Me, Practical Tools for Couples. It includes practical prompts to help you slow the argument down, understand what's really happening, and begin repairing the conversation. The link is in the description below. If you enjoy this kind of content, if this was useful, comment, like the video, and subscribe to Other Minds for more practical tools on communication, trust, and repair. Thank you for listening to Other Minds. I'm John Fugit. So long until next time.